I'm not a morning person.
Dedicated to being passionate about it.
Bodybuilders have become more lazy.
People have always thought I lift fake weights. Iran and the United States.
You take responsibility for that. Thank you for doing this today, man. Appreciate you taking your time.
Oh, not a problem. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So last time we did an interview was probably like 2016. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I remember it well.
Yeah, it was a good interview.
Yeah, it was good. I think I got in trouble for that, but I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think they use that as an excuse, but it's all good. It's all good. I thought it was great when I watched the playback. You know, because some people said that I trashed the judging or something like that. And then,
you know what? I think it was a good interview because you were passionate about the sport. You said you're a participant and you're an audience. So I thought you were just saying you wanted to create a list of principles how to improve the judging. Yeah,
and you know, and from the athlete to the fan, the audience, the judge, as a performer. I mean, all those. You know, I've had a little bit of taste of all those facets of the sport, and just kind of just my 2 cents, but I do notice that they're adopting a lot of those things. So I thought it was just common sense, but sometimes change is hard a lot of times. So slowly but surely, because I'm actually enjoying watching bodybuilding as a fan right now. I think the judging has been spot on. I think the production of the shows have been vastly improved. So yeah, I'm excited.
That's cool, man. Well, what's been happening with you in the last couple of years? Because I know last time we spoke, you were still actually competing. I know you were doing the Arnold Classic. I believe you did a show in Poland. I remember you were doing like a bunch of shows. Yeah.
So when we spoke last time, I was in California, in Carmel, California, training for the Poland show. I was actually injured training for that show. I had some soft tissue injuries, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I just kept pushing through it. My leg would swell up. I would go do cryo, and then it would go down for 3 days. Then it swell back up. So anyway, long story short, that's kind of why I had to sit down or not train in order for my leg to heal. And because I was 49 and a half, and even if I healed and came back and won the Mr. Olympia, I'm still 50 years old. So it was time to, start thinking about what am I going to do next? So even if I continued for a year or 2 or 4 or 5, I started thinking about, what's after this? What do I do next? And when I started trying to figure out what was wrong with me before I found out what was wrong with my leg, I found out that I had soft tissue injury. I was nutritionally deficient in a lot of things, believe it or not, after eating 7 to 8 meals a day and still being, nutritionally deficient.
Why is that? What kind of, some kind of vitamins?
Well, it's just the fact that, I was doing 6, 7, 8, 9 shows a year. So, no matter, you can't really keep up with that. Having a fast metabolism, training basically 7 days a week, competing, traveling, bodybuilding 24/7, having an injury and trying to heal and trying to diet for a show and trying to live up to your obligations just wasn't enough, and you add my age in there too as well. So that, and then after doing a lot of blood work and a lot of muscle testing and a lot of bioimpedance type testing, found out that I had a couple of parasites.
Oh, wow.
So that probably had a lot to do or something to do with my nutritional deficiency at the time. So I wanted to address my health. In other words, I got to the point where, 49 and a half years old. It's not about, how much longer can I go in the sport. It's how much longer am I going to be on this earth? And I started valuing my life and my longevity even more so. I mean, I was already doing it as a competitor, but I just decided that, monetarily wise, the amount that I was sacrificing, the return just wasn't there. And so I just chose between that, the injury, the whole, what am I going to do for money now? Because I couldn't compete. I couldn't guest pose. I couldn't, my endorsement, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was one of those type of situations where I had to like reinvent myself. And so I started with healing my body. So I started doing a lot of fasting and cleansing. And then after that, when you start healing your body and start detoxing yourself of the parasites, and, I call them demons, but it's really just all the things you pick up in your life that the habits that you pick up. I was a naturally skinny kid, so I never had the regimen type mentality that I acquired from bodybuilding. And I knew that I wasn't going to be competing And I actually wasn't even able to train for the first, I don't know, 90 days or so. So I started eating a lot less. I started intermittent fasting. And just as I started doing all those things, my thought process and my mind became clearer. And I started kind of seeing, kind of a path for my way out, to way to change. I think when you go through the dejection of being injured, the fact that you have basically forced to retire, even though I'm 49, I should have been thinking about it anyway, but kind of before I wanted to. And then the lack of income, because bodybuilding was everything. I didn't have like a plan B. So anyway, I kind of got my together, as they say. And one of the things that I wanted to do first, and I figured I had to do first, was I was unhappy because I was so used to doing what I was doing that I didn't leave room for anything else. So I had this huge empty void after I finished competing. So anyway, I was like, you know what? I can't be mad at the world. I can't let my circumstances determine my happiness. So I've listened to a lot of, what do you call it? Personal development stuff, and I decided to be happy. I said, I'm going to choose happiness and I'm going to attract all the other things to myself. And that's kind of the plight that I've been on. I mean, it's a huge, long story, but that's where my mentality shifted, and that's where my life shifted. And, in bodybuilding and any sport, you have to put all your attention, all your focus, all your effort into that craft, or you won't make it. You know what I'm saying? You'll be mediocre at best. If you're super talented, but you don't do all the other things, you'll be mediocre at best. And, I was all in with bodybuilding. And, it paid off in a way. It gave me something that, that I'm actually using now to actually further my, my income, my career, whatever, the knowledge and the wisdom that I learned about the human body. I finally figured out a way to share that information and indirectly turn it into revenue. So it's just been a blessing. And so I'm really kind of excited and kind of happy. I'm like a serial entrepreneur now. So many things that I passed up, when I was bodybuilding that, I'm able to take advantage of different opportunities. Because when I was bodybuilding, I had different things that I passed up, like a chance to go to Hollywood and stuff like that. That type of stuff is not in my picture, but, business building, networking, doing a lot of cool things in that arena.
Sure. Now, you mentioned retiring, and a lot of athletes, when they retire, they go through a certain level of depression, and they kind of like they feel like they have nothing, they have a purpose anymore at this point.
Right.
But also, I feel like in today's world, right, with everything that's happening with pandemic and just in the fitness industry, a lot of people are depressed in general because of uncertainty. Do you have advice for those people that they're going through depression right now currently? Because I feel like you understand them. What kind of advice do you give to people to get through the hard time?
There's all different types of depression, anxiety, and there's all different causes and reasons and triggers. But I think we all can agree that it's a chemical reaction. It's not necessarily what's happening to you, or you know what I'm saying? Like my circumstances, me being injured, me not having an income, me basically being ostracized or black, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like you remember that story where the guy wanted to conquer the land and he burned the ship so they had no choice? I did that to myself. I gave myself no choice. I had to reinvent myself and do something other than bodybuilding. But again, back to what I was saying, it's a chemical balance or imbalance that makes you depressed. So when you feel depressed, like when I was depressed, I could have used those excuses for why I was depressed or whatever, but that had nothing to do with me getting up and changing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's some people who are depressed, it's more chemical than it is actually physical. In other words, 90% of the stuff we worry about never happens. You know what I'm saying? So me personally, what I did is I found this product, nootropics. I started taking nootropics. The ones that I use are in a coffee version, so it made it easy to take on a regular basis, quick delivery. And the particular ones that I use, it's designed to balance your brain chemistry. It's not one nootropic, that revs you up. It's a combination of nootropics that are they trigger your brain to release dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And when I started drinking the coffee, I was already not training. And that's where the depression was coming from, because I wasn't getting that endorphin rush in the gym. So I started drinking this coffee and taking this little capsule. And so I felt those endorphins. So I didn't miss the physicality of the gym. I missed the endorphins that I was getting. And that helped me actually gather my thoughts enough to where I could stop feeling sorry for myself. I can start planning on different ways, because, you know, during this calamity, you know, this time right now is a time to reinvent yourself. It's a time to dig deep, you know, do some research, read, study, hone in on your craft, you know, think of 4 or 5 different new things you can start looking in, you know, because we have time. Being on the lockdown, we did anyway. So those are the type of things that I did. But initially mine started with clearing the clutter. I got off all the chemistry, all the hormones. You know, I stopped eating 500 grams of protein a day and, you know, 1,000 grams of carbs a day. You know what I'm saying? I started basically poisoning myself. You know, I'm definitely not against bodybuilding, but all bodybuilders know that the things that we do
it's extreme.
aren't necessarily the healthiest things in the world.
Sure.
It gets the result that we want, and we'll deal with all that other later. So I learned how to purge all that out of my body. I literally saw the parasites leave my body. In other words, I took pictures. You know what I mean? When somebody tells you have parasites, you're like, oh, okay. And then they say, well, everybody has parasites. Well, when you see them and you get to meet them, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I got to know what their names were.
Damn, really? Wow.
Man, it changed the whole way that I looked at it. And
how do you get parasites, out of curiosity?
Well, I had a kidney worm, right? So I'm gonna tell you exactly. So I'm gonna tell you, after the Arnold in 16, right? So I was supposed to go to Australia, but my leg, I mean, I literally couldn't hardly walk. My leg was jacked up. So anyway, I took a few days off, and I decided not to do the show. And I went to this naturopath, and he did a bunch of muscle testing on me. And it took a while for him to try to figure out. He said, Tony, you're deficient in a lot of stuff. Explain that. And then he said, your left kidney is very stressed. And I kind of figured that. And then he said, you also have a parasite. And I'm just like, whoa, how do you know? What kind is it? He said, I don't know all that yet. I'm still, you know, working with it. So he gave me some herbs and stuff. And so I leave. And then during that week, when I announced I wasn't doing the Arnold, a lot of fans started asking me, was I going to ever compete again? And in my mind, I was like, man, I can't keep doing this to myself. I got to, you know, figure out what's up. So I said out loud, I said, I'm not going to do any more shows or do this to myself any longer until I know exactly what's going on with myself from head to toe. Now, you can say that all day long, but how is that even possible? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So about 3 days, the following weekend, I had an event, what's the name of it? FitCon in Utah. And one of my buddies called me and said, hey man, you're going to Utah, you need to stop and see this guy. He has this machine that can tell you everything that's going on with yourself inside.
Like a body scan, right?
It's a body scan, but it's a high-end artificial intelligence from Russia. And it freaked me out because I just literally said the only way I'm gonna compete again is if I know exactly what's up. And when I'm saying it, I had no idea that was even possible. And lo and behold, 5 days later, I'm doing this machine. You know, you put these things on your head, and it's called a blue opal, and it starts scanning you. And like everything that I know that's wrong with me, like my pec tear, you know, I got arthritis in this right knee, my left kidney was, you know, all those things showed up on this 3D screen without me saying a word to this guy. And I freaked out. I'm sitting there, he's talking to me, and I'm looking at the screen. So anyway, in that session, I learned everything about myself, all the way down to my mitochondria and what I needed to do to be healthy. I learned where my parasite was. I actually had 3 different types: of kidney worm, liver flukes, and something else. And anyway, so I found out how you get them. The kidney worm you get from eating raw fish. And at the time, you know, that last prep, I was eating 8 ounces of raw tuna every single day.
Like sushi style, right? Like sashimi.
Yes. Yeah. So when I started studying kidney worms, you know, one of the most rare parasites there is, but in reality, it's not very, very rare at all. It's just most people never know that they have it. They end up, you know, dying with it or whatever, because it doesn't take over your body And, you know, in most cases, me personally, I mean, I just started studying parasites and how to kill them and all that type of stuff. And I did several different parasite cleanses I did rife. I did, I did all the herbs. I did,
So it's not an easy process to get rid of it. It's like a
not at all. I mean, they don't want to go nowhere, but you have to make your body unhospitable to them, and then they'll leave. So I literally passed the worm, saw it, literally said, wave bye-bye. I mean, crazy, man.
How about the other? What are the other parasites from? You said that one's
the
from
liver flukes. You basically almost all the rest of them you can starve off with fasting, keto. You know, autophagy basically gets rid of the rest of them. Herbs and autophagy is how you get rid of parasites. Fasting, you know, all the different ways you create autophagy. That's why fasting is so good for you. Basically, they feed on all the stuff that we love, all the stuff that's in boxes and bags, processed food. You basically come off. I got a program that I give to people. That's kind of how I grew my business. I give the program away to people. They lose, you know, double digits in 7 days, but it's really just purging all that stuff that your body doesn't want anyway. So,
is it difficult as a competitor? Not right now, but as a competitive bodybuilder, when you go to the doctor, is it difficult because, you know, they look at your blood work, right? I'm sure, like, because on anabolics the numbers are spiked in many cases. Right? Is it a difficult process to be talking to a doctor?
Yeah, most bodybuilders don't go to the doctor unless something's wrong. So now we have the ability to go to these hormone clinics and get your blood work tested, and it's not that big of a deal. But, you know, my whole career until the last, I think 2005 is when I started, 2004, 2005 is when I started going to the clinic. They would draw my blood, and then the doctor would give it to me, and then I would do my own manipulation or whatever. We would go over it line by line, you know, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I knew where to make adjustments as far as my health was concerned. And then once I decided to stop competing, my whole mindset went from, you know, muscle conditioning, to, man, I got to be healthy. So give you a perfect example. So my blood work, when I competed, my kidney function was all the way down to a 60. So above 59 is functioning, but below that is not. So it was a 60. And that had to do with the parasite and the diuretics and the, you know, 27 years of competing and whatnot. But now it's anywhere between 86 and 95 every time I get it done. So you can regenerate all those things. You just have to, you know, they always say there's nothing wrong with going down the wrong road. Once you realize that you're going the wrong way, you just turn around. So I just kind of turned around my thought process. And, you know, I haven't even trained in 3 years. I go to the gym and do like circuit stuff. I invented my own equipment, and I just got the first 6 prototypes finished. So I'm actually going to use those for like my little transformation or whatever. So I've been working on my before picture for about 3 years now. So
people are used to you being Toney Freeman. You know, you obviously in your prime, you're huge. You know, does that mentally affect you? Like not being as massive as it used to be?
Not at all. I literally purposely took off the muscle suit. Like if I just stopped competing and just kept on bodybuilding, I still would be 285. But what would it be doing for me? What would 285 be doing for me right now? Not shortening my life. So I did this on purpose. I mean, I know how to get big, and all I got to do is don't do those things, and I go back to my regular JJ Walker ectomorph self. So it's not like people, oh, he shrunk. No, I'm like, no, I just went back to normal. You know, when I started bodybuilding, I was 162 pounds at 6'2". I'm like 245 right now. And as soon as I touch the weights, I mean, it just comes back. So I do 1 or 2 sets per exercise and kind of like a circuit round robin. I do push-ups and stuff like that, but I don't really focus on training. I focus on being healthy. And, you know, I walk, you know, 4 or 5 miles every day, and, you know, try to eat halfway decent 90% of the time, and just kind of live a clean life and just no stress. I live an unselfish life. You know, being a pro athlete, high level, you have to be selfish. I mean, you know, you have to be, or you don't, you know, the guys who do well at balancing, I'm so proud of Brandon and William and Dexter and all those guys. do well at balancing both. But, there's a time where they pack their stuff up, go wherever they go, and buckle down and do what they got to do. I was able to do that as well. But as you get older, when that's all over with, the reality hits you in the face. Okay, I want to live now. I want to be healthy. So, like I said, I want to be wealthy and healthy. So I just flipped it to that. So fitness I still love fitness. It's like breathing to me. But
Is it true that your son is he competing, or you're training him to compete? Is that accurate?
He was going to compete. He told me he wanted to do a bodybuilding show and a powerlifting show. So he's actually training. But, he's going to get married this Saturday. His son just turned 1 year old. Him and his wife, they launched their own apparel brand and exercise bands and whatnot. So I think he's just taking the business side, decided that he doesn't want to compete for a living. So he probably will get on stage as a hobby eventually. Sure. But I can't, that's definitely not in his top 10 priority right now.
I hear. So what advice?
He definitely has the goods, though. I gotta say.
Yeah, I saw the video of you too. I think you were at the expo or something like that, and you and your son were talking about that. But what advice would you give to somebody like your son or another aspiring bodybuilder that wants to actually make it a career though and get into this business to compete just like you were? I mean, what advice would you give to somebody like that right now? Because obviously, you've been through that and you know everything in and out.
I have people reach out to me all the time, and I'm the type of person that tell you to go for what you want and all that. And I'm also here to be a mentor to help you kind of make better decisions. Because there's things that you decide to do when you're trying to, when you're trying to win the Mr. Olympia, it's like all bets are off. But I'm saying just to get to the point where you can actually be a pro, and now that's how you earn your living from basically your body. It goes from being a hobby to your career. So if you're still in the hobby phase, just make sure that you're doing things like investing your money. And, it's kind of hard. I would tell people to get life insurance, but it's kind of hard for bodybuilders to get life insurance because of what we do. So, eventually you're going to get to the point where you got to not necessarily put the weights down, but they're not going to pay you anymore to get up there and do quarter turns. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
You gotta plan for the future, and you gotta think about your health first. I tell people all the time, things are so easy to access everything now. And if you talk to anybody in the game, as far as like the hormone clinic, less is more. I do believe that when you're trying to be, at the highest level, you gotta do what you gotta do. But I'm saying most people don't have the genetics for that, so you shouldn't even go there, basically. But a lot of people do, trying to push the envelope. You just one day everybody pays the piper. That's all. As long as you know that. That's the advice that I can give you from a 54-year-old man who did it, more than half his life. Right. And I came out okay on the other side. I was, and I'm definitely, I'm grateful. But a lot of this is my skilled thought. It ain't just lucky. Because when I was bodybuilding, I was studying how the body works, and I used to tell people all the time I bodybuild on the cellular level. Only thing I'm not doing now that I was doing then is just not training intensely and eating all the calories. But my mentality is be healthy on a cellular level, which has a lot to do with what you put in your mouth, and what you don't put in your mouth, and what you don't allow in your body. So as long as you like when you're trying to study the game, learn those things about yourself, because everybody's different, and you can go a long way. I think somebody like Brandon, and I told Phil this in 2012. When did he win his first Olympia? 2010 or 11?
11.
Yeah. We were backstage in India, and I'm Phil is like 12 or 13 years younger than me, something like that. And I remember I think I was 45 and he was 30. And I was telling him, I'm like, putting it in perspective in my mind. I'm like, wow, dude, you could be 15-time Mr. Olympia. Because I figured he'd still be as good in his 40s, you know what I'm saying, as I was, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he was like, man, I ain't gonna be doing this 15 years from now. And I was like, wow, you sure won't. You sure won't be. You know what I'm saying? If you don't think that, you know what I'm saying? When you're 25, if you don't think about doing it when you're 45 or 50, you won't make it that far. You'll burn out, you'll crash and burn. This is a grown man's game. So, and you got the greatest talent and work ethic combined to compete against. So they're gonna push you. You know, if you're not up to par, you will learn. And some people keep going and pushing. I tell people, put it in perspective, have some other stuff going on, but enjoy yourself because it's awesome.
You know, you mentioned the finances and the rewards of bodybuilding, right? I was talking to Paul Dillette the other day. I was in an interview with him, and he was telling me that in his era, like late 90s, right, like early 2000s, he said, you know, bodybuilders were actually making way more money, and they were making he said that was really the prime time for bodybuilding. And today they're making much less, even though I was thinking with social media, it gives more opportunities, right? And he was telling me, no, it's not true. Back then it was completely different. People paid for everything, you know, for expos, like it was just, and now everything is basically for free online, you know? So what is your take on that?
Well, see, back then the athletes were a commodity. So you had a value according to where you were ranked, so you got paid for your image, your likeness. You know, I think Paul. I remember I met Paul in '93. Met him backstage at the Junior Nationals. Then we kicked it the following week in California. His Weider contract was $500,000. That's just from that, not all that, not going to FIBO and making $25,000 over the weekend. I mean, they was making some real money.
That's impressive,
and it's just like I learned a lot. I got my business partner. He's a merger and acquisitions attorney. He taught me a lot about dilution and what happens now with social media. So you have diluted commodities. So in other words, more people, like Apple about to do that 4-way split, and Tesla gonna do the 5-way split. So that same stock, but unlike that, which were, you know, you got the same value, it gets spread out, and now people, you know, they'll freaking start blowing you up, you know, commenting, you know, you against you on Facebook, where back in the day we used to have to wait 3 months just to see the pictures from the show, much less see who won and all that other stuff.
Right.
I mean, so people are just spoiled. It's just diluted now, and you know, it's hard to get paid because everybody's doing it for free just to be for likes and clicks and all that type of stuff. So
that's interesting, man. Wow, that's you know, if you really think about it, that is true, right? Back then,
that's exactly what happened.
More ways to make money. Plus, they had magazines that would give it contracts also.
Yeah, I mean, you know, magazines went away because of the internet.
Of course, yeah.
And because they just got lazy, they just kept, you know, they was doing the same
thing,
the same photo shoot with a different athlete. With this, you know what I'm saying? It's just like you wasn't doing anything to make it. I gotta take these off. Make it grow.
I can see you.
So
you can hear me, right?
All right. My phone's dying, so I had to plug it up.
Oh, okay, I can hear you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I wanted to get your opinion on muscle maturity, right? Because you've competed till you were 50 years old almost, right? And I keep hearing in bodybuilding, like the older you get, the better quality muscle you get, right? But then you have guys like Lee Haney, and he retired at 30, you know, he got all these 8 Olympias before 30. So what is the reality of muscle maturity? When is the prime age for bodybuilding, when you have the best muscularity?
Lee definitely was an anomaly, but I think he started lifting at like 18 or something like that. So he still had, you know, 15 years or more under his belt. So that was muscle maturity. The thing is now is there's so much knowledge and information. You know, not a lot of wisdom, but knowledge and information. The wisdom is still pretty spread out. So you could, you know, take more chemistry, eat more food. They got all these different machines, you know, overload the muscle more. So a lot of guys are putting on more muscle, but they're not building better physiques. You know what I'm saying? You still got the small, you know, 7 or 8 guys with the awesome physiques, and then everybody else is trying to play catch up. You know, back in the day, no one was trying, you know, before Dorian, no one was trying to get as big as they could get. Everybody was trying to be as, you know, as athletic and aesthetic as possible. while you got, they knew that it was a process as far as the size. Now, people are literally trying to put on 50 pounds in a cycle, so, I mean, that's not how muscle really works. That you need about, I don't know, probably 18 to 24 months before it turns solid. You know what I'm saying? Like most of people's muscle gains are water. That's why when they take the diuretic, you don't even look like the same, like what happened. I mean, it used to happen to me all the time until I learned about being tall. My volume was so different. And that's kind of why I had to go from guru to guru, because I was just so tall, just hard to figure that out. I did nail it a couple times, only once or twice on stage, but most of the time it was, in the room on the way. But it's really hard to nail it. And I think that, now it's just, we can just, how they say, turn it up a notch and take more or whatever. And that's not necessarily the way to create that artistic, complete physique. And that's why it's still rare, where, like I say, back in the day, it was like, I mean, the most, what is it? Rich Disparity, Marcus Rule. I mean, I'm saying there wasn't that many non-aesthetic guys that didn't do well back in the day. You know what I mean? Almost all the top guys were really aesthetically pleasing physiques. Right. And then it just switched over to Mass Monster and Freak Show. So it has no choice but to come back, because the money went when the Freak Show showed up, the money left town. So now I think now they're in a position to make it bigger than it's ever been. I think Brandon as Mr. Olympia, hopefully Sean comes back. You got like the top 6 or 7 guys with basically X frames. So yay.
You mentioned being tall, right? And I was talking to Paul Dillette about that as well. Being tall, was it a gift or a curse for you? Because obviously, if you have the muscles at that size, you're taller than everybody, so it's impressive. You know what I'm saying? But for you, was it difficult to gain muscle?
No, not at all. I just didn't want to push the envelope. I got up to 323, and for lack of a better word, I was like, whoa, I don't want to go. I didn't want to go no further. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to the point where I realized that, wow, okay, I literally figured out how to do whatever it is I want to do. But I never didn't want to have the package. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to just be up there dwarfing everybody. Because in my deal was my appendages are so long. So if you look at my forearm and my calf, so there's no muscle for like 6 or 7 inches on my wrist and like 10 inches on my, you know what I'm saying? So there's nothing I can do. That's just the way that they insert. My quads, I could have made my quads, to where I couldn't even walk probably. They wouldn't stop growing. I literally, when I turned pro, I stopped training legs for 2 years other than leg extensions and leg curls, just so my upper body could catch up.
That's crazy.
So, I always, my whole thing, when I tore my pec, so in other words, without the pec tear, the way that I was growing, I would have been a mass monster. But like I say, like my forearms were, the biggest ever been was 17 and a half, and my wrist is 7 1/4. So my arms got up to 23. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing really I can do about that, that muscle that's not there. So, but I think the rest, as far as back, arms, shoulders, all that, I think without the pec tear, I would have definitely been able to bring an upper body that could have matched my legs all the way, and that would have been really scary.
You mentioned that you were going from guru to guru, right? Did you have bad experiences with some of the gurus? Like,
no,
what's the right approach to working with one?
No, I'm a student. I'm just a student, and pretty much I work with Dave for about 8 or 9 shows, and pretty much I know how to do what he does. I work with a lot of different people, some people longer than others. And once I learn what you're teaching me, I mean, I'm not supposed to stay in the 12th grade forever. I just, you know what I'm saying? So people would always approach me, let me try. I'm like, okay, cool. And then, I did really well with Dennis James. But like I say, after 14, I was ready to retire anyway. As far as I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna ever. Maybe I'll win a show, but I'm not gonna be in the top 5 in Olympia again or nothing like that. just because of the way the pecking order is, and just, you know, I'm not willing to keep on getting bigger and bigger. I wasn't, you know, plus I'm getting older. So my reality started kicking in around 13, 14. I stayed a couple of years longer because I was still having fun. I was still making money, and I didn't really have my exit strategy all planned out. Once I decided I was going to retire at 50, I started getting my shit together, but then I injured myself, and it was like, you know, I had to do something different, which I'm really glad that happened, because I'm a changed man now. So I really loved what I used to do. It's over now. I literally have, my mentality wouldn't even allow me to get ready for a show. Now, I would do an exhibition type situation, but as far as wanting to compete and, you know, get on stage and kick ass and all that, those days are gone.
Now, you mentioned it's difficult to get the peak, right, to dial in before the show. And I hear it from so many bodybuilders. They look perfect the day before, and just on a day, they look off. Like, why? Why is it so difficult to nail that? You know what I'm saying? And why so many people miss it?
Well, first and foremost, a lot of the reasons why it's hard to nail it on stage is because the production is not precise. In other words, in NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, every player knows exactly how it's going to go, other than the timeouts and penalties and shit like that. They know we're going to start kickoff at 1 o'clock. We're going to play 15 minutes, and then we go, you know what I'm saying? We got 3, you know what I'm saying? Sure. We don't have that. We go to the show, they tell us how it's going to be, and then we try to match as good as we can. So, you know, when I say peak, I mean, it don't get no better than this. It's downhill from here. That lasts anywhere from an hour to, it's hard. You probably won't even get 24 hours. I figure you can get 12 to 24 hours. I'm talking about if you're in really, really good condition, the show's flowing, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's so hard to do. It's like, in order to peak, it's like trying to hit a moving target while you're moving. I mean, it's really hard to do. A lot of guys, you see them and you think that was their best, and then if you had saw them, you know, in the hotel room or whatever, so it's really hard to do. I peaked the 95 Nationals in Houston's in the bathroom about an hour and a half after prejudging. I didn't have any water backstage. There was literally zero water. So I dehydrated, flattened out. Went to the car, drunk half a gallon of water, and I went to the restaurant, sipped the rest of the water, got my food. I started eating. I could literally feel myself, my whole body just pumped up. I did another interview, and I tried to describe what it feels like when you peak. It feels like a total body erection. It's like all your blood is in your muscles, and they're pushing against the skin. It's like a shrink wrap. It's a crazy feeling. I know most people have never felt it before. That's
crazy. How long does the peak last for?
Like I say, when I peaked at the bottom of the stairs in 2008. As I was walking up the stairs and Bob was announcing my name, I literally felt that whole endorphin rush, and all my muscles just, when I hit that first front double bicep, it was crazy. And Lee Haney told me, he said, Tony, I did, you know, how many ever shows he did, he said, I only peaked one time, and that was at the finals. Wow. At the 91 Mr. Olympia. And I saw it because I was there. I saw the prejudging, and it was kind of close. I mean, Dorian had, you know, he was like, damn, Dorian, damn, okay. Then the night show, they had this stage that turned around like that. And so everybody went, and Lee was last, and he turned around, and I was like, it didn't even look like the same dude. It was insane. Wow. I was just like, wow. So yeah, and then later on, I had a conversation with him. He told me, he said, I peaked in that moment. It's conditioning, it's timing, and then you add the emotion part to it. And then when you put the adrenaline with the lights and all that, I mean, it's crazy. Victor peaked at the 07 Olympia. I saw it myself. I mean, wow. It was insane.
Oh, you were there.
I was there. So I'm coming down the hallway at the Orleans, and Victor's number one. So he was there early, and I forgot, I was like, you know, I was like a few guys later. But I got there early, and Chad was putting his oil on. He's standing in the hallway. Literally, I was walking closer, and I was like, damn. I was like, who the fuck is that? I got closer, and I saw Victor. And as I got closer and closer, I was like, I was like, he won. There's no way. And we all saw, you know, I mean, we all saw. So, but I saw it before. I mean, I saw it at its height, because you're talking about, he's the first person that's about to go out. I know that feeling. That's what happened to me in '08. That's how I know what I'm talking about. Man, it's a crazy feeling. That's why in this sport, what I wish they really would do is, when you see an athlete, because everybody knows it rarely happens. It rarely happens. Flex Wheeler 93, Dorian Yates 93. You just ain't seen them better than that. When you see that, that should be an automatic here. No matter if we don't even know what your last name is yet, because it's such a rare thing. It really, really is.
Wow, I never thought about that before. So when he didn't get the title of Olympia, Victor, what was happening backstage at the time? Were people like legitimately like upset about it?
I mean, you know, of course the crowd reacted, everybody's upset. But I mean, it's Jay. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I mean, you get over it after the first couple of minutes, you know. The same way when Ronnie lost, you know, there was a lot of people happy that Jay won, and a lot of people sad that Ronnie lost. But after, you know, when the dust settles, when Sean beat Phil, you know, everybody just wants whoever's the best that day to win. That's the only thing that keeps it interesting. You know, everything else is like a soap opera. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why you would see it happen more often if that was the case. I'm trying to tell you, man, it's the nature of the beast. You know, you want to get beat by the best person. And man, when you see it backstage, when you know it as an athlete, Kai peaked backstage. You know, Kai peaked like probably that whole show in India in 2011. Yes, Phil was Mr. Olympia. Yes, Jay got second. But if you just look at Kai, the way he looked, it was game over, bro. It was freaking. I was backstage, and George was. Oh my God! It was so insane, and Phil and Jay was insane too. And then you look at Kai like, shit, well, how is that even possible? I'm just looking at Kai like, how did you fly 16 hours and look better? It was so freaky.
What's the most impressive physique you have ever witnessed in your life?
Man, it's a couple of them, but with my eyes, Dorian Yates 93. I was not on the front row, but I was off to the side in the front of the stage. He walked out, and I'm still speechless. It was ridiculous. And then Dexter Jackson backstage with me, just me, in 2009. Wow. Let's see. Myself, let me see, what year was that? 2011, 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it was really insane. And then Lee Haney, 91. Ronnie Coleman, 2 weeks out before the Arnold Classic in 2001. When he was like 247, I saw him at 277 at his house.
Wow.
That's those. I mean, you know, right off the top of my head, but it's been more for sure.
Of course.
But I'm talking about no words. Oh my God, I can't believe this is human.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Now, last time I spoke to you in an interview, you mentioned you were the first person that was telling me about a keto diet, and you were working on, I believe, some keto company or something like that, supplements. Do you still follow the keto diet, and do you think it's beneficial still?
I have keto days. I don't live in ketosis. I don't think that's a healthy way to live. I believe that, I do intermittent fasting, and as an adult, so most active adults means I work out at the gym. Maybe my job is slightly physical. So it's not like you're running around or playing a sport or nothing like that. So keto, so when you're not eating, you want your body producing ketones. And then when you eat, of course, they stop, and then you want the glucose and the insulin to take over. So in bodybuilding, I was eating anywhere from 2.5 hours to every 4 hours, trying to get 6, 8, 9, 10. I've eaten up to 10 meals a day. Well, now I eat 1 or 2 meals a day. I try to get at least 7 to 16 hours between meals, depending on what I'm trying to do. So
how does it work exactly? So you wake up in the morning and you don't eat until a certain time?
Yeah, I wake up in the morning. I have what I call keto coffee. I have my nootropics coffee, and I add, keto creamer to it. I make my own, and then I don't eat anything until I don't know whenever. Usually it's 2 or 3 or 4 in the afternoon. If I go train or if I go walk, we do like 4 or 5 miles, and I'll come home and I'll eat sooner, like 11 or something like that. But the body is still trying to detox itself all the way till about 11 o'clock. So I try not to eat till after 11, and then I try to stop eating, before 10. Usually it's about 9, but 10 o'clock I usually cut off the eating, other than maybe a bowl of cherries or something if I'm staying up late. But that's all. I just try to give my digestive system a rest. Again, in bodybuilding, you got to do what you got to do, and it works.
Right.
But in real life, when you're trying to be healthy, when you're trying to have normal blood work and good cholesterol and good blood pressure and all that, good insulin sensitivity, 2 meals, 3 at the most, like I say, if you're active. So if you're lifting weights and a cardio, maybe 3 meals, 3 big meals. I believe in feast and famine. So when I eat until I'm completely satisfied.
Do you eat whatever you want, or do you have dietary restrictions, or you eat whatever you want?
I eat whatever I want. I just so happen to love good, healthy food. But if I want a pizza, I'll eat a pizza. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really. So, because I know if I'm not going to eat for 16 hours, what is this pizza going to do to me? I mean, as far as, it's not going to make me gain 5 pounds or something.
Right. So, do you recommend doing fasted cardio in the morning?
Yes. Yep. A lot of people, well, again, there's a myth that says if you do fasted cardio, you lose more body fat. It's true that if you do fasted cardio, you'll release more fatty acids because there's no insulin. If you eat in the morning, your body releases insulin. So when you're doing cardio, it's not going to break down any fat. You just nix that. So if you do fasted cardio, there's no insulin. So your body will release fatty acids for fuel. It don't necessarily mean you're going to burn them during that workout. So some people, if you do your cardio, you release fatty acids, and then you go eat some high carb meal or something like that. A lot of that fat is not burned, so it's going to be restored. That insulin is going to grab it and put it right back.
So what's the right way to do it? Do cardio and then don't eat right away?
Well, when you're bodybuilding, you have so many other factors in play that, a lot of times doing your set hour cardio in the morning and set hour cardio at night, it puts you in enough caloric deficit and your food is on point, and that's how you balance it out. But if you're just trying to not be fat, I suggest not eating till 11 or 12 in the afternoon. Get up and walk, and start your day with coffee. And I tell people I use healthy fats, coconut cream, coconut milk, coconut oil. I make my own cashew milk. I mean, there's different ways to get healthy fats, and that'll give you some calories, but your body's not spending energy breaking down any food. So when you're walking now, your body's releasing these fatty acids because you haven't spiked your insulin. And you're going to eventually, over time, allow yourself to stay leaner. You might not necessarily get shredded. I think a lot more stuff is required for that. But I've been maintaining a healthy body fat. Again, this is without any training. If I trained, then it would be a totally different story.
What did you take on fat burners? Did you used to take them as a bodybuilder, like fat burning pills?
I've tried them all, but definitely, especially towards the end, we didn't really bother. Of course, as a bodybuilder, you use Clen, but I used ephedrine when it was legal, and then but regular store-bought fat burners, when ephedrine was legal and they had it in there, then they were good, and then when they went away, then they were all basically suspect.
Are they dangerous though? Like, do they make you like jittery? Like, I heard crazy stories, or your heart race or something like that.
Yeah, the supplement industry, it's not. They don't regulate it. So some people just make a product that, they're trying to blow your head off. And then you got other guys who make products that are balanced. And, I try to you got to do a lot of research. I really don't take sports nutrition anymore. I've stopped taking sports nutrition. Man. Whew. When I worked for VPX, that's the last real sports nutrition that I took. You know, every time, everything else, I would buy the raw material. Even when I worked for Muscle Tech, you know, I never really used none of their stuff because they signed me as Muscle Tech and then they switched me to Xenadrine. So I was just like, I didn't really use none of that stuff. I've been using just, you know, the raw, you know, raw ingredients. I buy my raw creatine or whatever. I don't do none of that stuff anymore. I'm all about, I love hemp protein. I do eggshell albumin's good for your immune system. What else? I do a lot of shilajit, fulvic acid, humic acid, a lot of minerals, a lot of herbs. That's really not
Speaking of cardio, I'm talking to a lot of the, you know, guys from your era, like let's say Kevin Levrone, you know what I mean, like King Kamali. They said they used to do so much cardio when they used to compete, and they saying because of that reason the conditioning was much better, you know, back in the day, as opposed to right now. Would you agree with that? Would you say the conditioning went down over the years, and especially now that people are not as conditioned? Would you agree or not?
Well, first we have to establish what conditioning is. You know, I think a lot of people used to always say Branch was in condition, right? Branch was very hard and very lean. Sometimes he was in condition. All the time he was hard and lean. Condition is more like the definition that Arnold basically gave for condition is when you're in such great shape, it doesn't matter what's going on, what you eat, how you, whatever, you still look like that. That's a level of conditioning. What I think people confuse with conditioning is, you know, do they have striated glutes? Right. How dry are they?
That's what they mean.
Stuff like that. And you can manipulate that with drugs and hormones and specific exercises and stuff like that. So, you know, it was different back in the day because everybody was going for quality, tight, symmetrical physique, because that's how it was presented to us. You know what I mean? So that's what everybody did. And that's kind of what I refused to go to the freak show, because I was, you know, I won't say indoctrinated, but the way that I learned bodybuilding was size, shape, symmetry, presentation, size, shape, symmetry, muscularity, and presentation. That's what bodybuilding is. It's not, you know, striated glutes and mismatched body parts and, you know, 40-inch waist with abs and, you know what I'm saying? Like, it has to flow a certain way or it just doesn't look right. So I don't consider being ultra shredded being in condition. I just think that you ate, you did your diet well, you dialed in your drugs well or whatever. But if you go eat a cheeseburger, or if you didn't get to eat for 12 hours, would you still look like that? So that's the difference for conditioning to me. I think the guys are in good condition. I just think there's a lot of extra muscles in places, and there's a lot of SEO going on too. So, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's just the quality. It just was different. I look at the physiques now, you know, they had the interview on David Patrick or whatever, they said those guys couldn't compete. I think they could if they had the same mentality, because, you know, I mean, we all got the same like genetics and structures and all that. So if the mentality, so put it this way, Brandon's Mr. Olympia, right? So I don't know what Brandon's plan is as far as, you know, like I remember, you know, every year with Ronnie, it was how much bigger is he going to be? You know what I mean? So I don't know if Brandon, I don't think Brandon's going to go that route. I think he realized that he's going to keep getting bigger as long as he keeps doing it. So he's more focused on keeping his midsection tight and letting the rest of it do what it do. And so if he does that, then he's going to force everyone else to do the same. And it can't get nothing but good after that. I mean, I'm thinking, you know, I pray Sean gets to come back, but Sean, Dexter, since he's not retiring now, William, Rolly, I haven't heard much from Rolly, but anyway, those guys, he got his stomach together. Man, I mean, you're talking like 6 or 7 huge, full volume, tight X frames up there, and they all got striated glutes. So, I mean, bodybuilding should be on the uptick big time after this year. I mean, even with the whole C word, whatever that shit, even with all this craziness going on. So I think as far as the athlete now, is everybody getting to train or because of the gyms being closed and all that? I don't know. But I think
I'm sure they got private gyms
Brandon leading the
around.
way as far as physique goes is a good thing.
Do you feel like Sean deserved to beat Phil 2 years ago? Do you think it was a legitimate? Do you think it was a dominant win?
Yeah, I think Dexter beat him in 15 as well. I mean, but you know, with Phil, like I told him in the beginning before he got big, you don't have to do that. Phil could have stayed 225, 232, and been Mr. Olympia for 15 years, easy.
But
What
would he think he'd be improving though? Because every year they say you have to improve something, right?
Well, he would over time, in other words. So, in other words, if he had got to 255 or 260 in 10 years, okay. You know what I'm saying? Man, that would have been insane because he still would have looked the same. He still would have looked the way he looked. He turned pro at 213. He won his first pro shows 217, 218. You saying? Give him 20 after that, but damn, 40. You know what I'm saying? It worked. The only place that got jacked up was the midsection. And that's exactly what I said. I said, don't put an 8-bedroom house on a 4-bedroom frame. Stay in your lane and you will dominate the sport forever. Now, he's went away for 2 years or whatever. If he come back with a tight waist, I mean, they're gonna have a hard night.
No, I agree with you.
Because he's that dominant. If he got his waist back tight and he brings what he used to bring, hey man, from the back,
right? Do you feel like Flex Lewis has a chance to win as well? Because that's his first year going into Open, right? He was dominated at 212 for many years, and now he's going to the Open his first year.
Well, man, now I'm gonna tell you, Flex Lewis, I could see him winning. I could see him winning it the first time, which is a very hard thing to do. But I've seen Flex at 228, 232. I've seen him, and he did. So let me see, what year was that? 2013 or something like that. We did the Olympia. Then we went to Italy. Me and him, we went to Italy to guest post together. Man, that ain't what they want, bro. Him at 232 is, I'm sorry.
It's too much?
I'm just saying it ain't too many humans that have ever existed that could beat that. So I don't know what he's coming in at, and he's improved so much since then. But you gotta understand, he was killing himself to get down to 202 back then. You know what I'm saying? And then you take that shrunk down Thursday 202, and then just put all the stuff back where it's supposed to go, and not too much. And I'm telling you, bro, it's the craziest thing I ever seen in my life. So I got my VIP tickets already, bro. I bought my VIP tickets to the Olympia already. I'm excited. This is like last year I was able to sit there and not feel weird. The year before I was feeling weird, and the year before that I was feeling weird. But now I can sit there and just enjoy it as a fan. It's gonna be awesome.
For sure.
It's gonna be awesome.
Do you follow the new school of bodybuilders, and any names stand out to you who you feel like are gonna be champions in the future?
It all depends on how, some people, they get a little attention and then they hit the gas, literally and figuratively, and then they crash and burn. So there's some great physiques. I think there's 4 or 5 guys that, if they stay in their lane, because you gotta understand, there's a pecking order. You know what I'm saying? You can hopscotch someone, but they have to leave the door open for you. So I think a lot of guys, if they just stay in their lane, focus on their physique, there's quite a few awesome physiques. I'm not great with everybody's name yet. I know them by face because I'm a fan, but yes, there's some really awesome physiques out there that just need to, just like I say, stay in their lane, because this is definitely a marathon. It's not a sprint. When Big Ramy came along, man, we saw that more is not better. I mean, bigger is not necessarily better. I mean, and now I would love to see him dialed in probably about 285, almost caved in, which 285 would be kind of caved in for him. And I'm telling you, it would change his total physique. I've been over to Kuwait. You can literally get as big as you want to over there. When I was over there, I gained 25 pounds every single time I went. Now, we only stayed, 10 days was as long as I ever stayed. But
in 10 days you gained that much? Wow.
Bro, I mean, but you're talking about leaving the show. So I go to the show. I did the last 10 years of my career, I did all clean rebound. So I literally would go back on my program, and that's why I competed so much. It was just easier to stay in shape than to get, out of shape and go back. But yeah, they got so many different types of equipment, and so, you got everything over there. You literally, I call that like an incubator type situation. I created that same scenario up in Seattle, Washington in 2008, 9, and 10, and 11. That's when I made the most progress during that time. I was spending, 3 or 4 months up in the woods in Seattle in Snohomish. And all I did was eat, sleep, and train 24 hours a day. And it makes a difference. So when you go over there, you could do it. So
sure, man. What about women's bodybuilding? What are your thoughts on women's bodybuilding? And I heard it's making a comeback. They banned it for a little bit. For a few years, it was non-existent. Now it's coming back. How do you feel about women's bodybuilding? And were you a fan of watching women's bodybuilding?
Yes, the Miss Olympia used to be a standalone show by itself. I used to go every year. It used to be mind-blowing. And in 2000, I don't remember the year. I need to try to remember it, but I want to say it was whatever the year was when Linda and Iris went head-to-head that last year, and then Linda retired after that. And when you just being a fan of the sport, and I had been there way before that, and I saw what was happening. And I was a fan. I still am a fan of both of them, big time. But I knew that they were both like giants, both great. But it was like two sides of a coin as far as where the women's bodybuilding was going to go. I said, if they pick Linda, then it will keep on flourishing. If they pick, wow, I lost him. Iris. If they pick Iris, then the women can't compete with Iris. You know what I'm saying? So, like, in other words, these girls are going to crash and burn trying to compete with Iris. Kind of like everybody did trying to beat Dorian and Ronnie. It's the same thing. So I saw the same thing happening. And the same thing happened to men's bodybuilding. It just wasn't as severe because it was just Iris and then everybody else, which they were all good. But, it was just clear cut. Iris got 10. She would have had 12. She'd have 14 by now if they had kept on going. But in the men's, there was other guys on the up and coming. So when Ronnie got to the point where he couldn't sustain it, then Jake jumped in and then Phil jumped in. So that's what kept it going. But the freak show doesn't sell as many tickets. When you go to I used to say this all the time, when you go to the carnival and you see the freak show, you know what I'm saying? You want to pay the money and go behind the curtain and see the freak, but you don't want to be the freak. The sport used to be where everybody wanted to be their bodybuilding hero. And so when you get that disconnect between the athletes and the fans, then that's when it starts getting watered down. It starts getting diluted, like I was mentioning earlier, as far as a commodity. You're no longer a commodity. Now, keyboard, whatever, they feel like they can get on the thing and talk to the Mr. Olympia or Miss Olympia or whatever. And it's because everything is so diluted. And people don't have the same admiration, but it's also not the same product either.
Now, you mentioned to me that after our last interview in 2016, which I thought was great, when you wanted to make some adjustments in judging, people kind of took it the wrong way and in some ways turned away from you. But now you're saying that actually judging improved, right? You feel like it improved, and now you feel content with it. Well,
in almost every sport, there's a playoff type situation. So in other words, it starts with, Sweet 16 starts with 16 teams, and it gets more exciting as you get down to first to one. in our sport for a long time, we started calling out number 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And so why should I stay? I already know who's going to win now. You know what I'm saying? So we just, it's just a lot of things that I would have liked to, and which I am seeing now. So, like I noticed now they actually do that. It is the last man standing now. They're really comparing everyone. You don't have to just be standing next to somebody numerically to get the call out of the comparison. They do the 5 or 6, and then they, bring some more guys to see if they deserve to be in the 5 or 6. It's very exciting. You can tell that they're actually working. You can tell that they're trying to come up with the best result for whatever reason, whether it was I won't say bitching, but my whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just happy to see it. And I was watching Bob Ciccarello and Jake Wood do an interview the other day, and Bob even admitted, bodybuilding was kind of like in a stale place for like 10 or 12 years. And it's because we were being too repetitive. We were giving the audience the same product every year. Anytime that someone who doesn't have the resources, the marketability, the exposure as the champ looks better than the champ, even if it's just for the day, that's the opportunity as a sport, as a promoter, as a judging panel to change the game, to throw that gasoline on the fire and make the whole sport more interesting. When Gunther beat Ronnie, we got a super version of Ronnie the next time we saw him. When Dexter beat Jay, we got a super version of Jay the next time we saw him. So I'm like, I don't know, that's how it should be. I mean, hey, that's how it should be. And I can only imagine what Sean would have looked like if he could have got to defend his title. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, it's just, so that's what I'm saying. I think they're in a good position now to really accelerate the sport. They changed the venue, thank goodness. The replay, I mean, not the replay, but the internet, all that's on point now. So, I mean, the next 4 or 5 years, if the whole country don't implode, I think we should be good.
I agree. Toney, last question. A lot of people that listen to our programs, the aspiring bodybuilders, right? What advice would you give them if they seriously want to get into competitive bodybuilding? Where to get the right information from as far as supplementation, even training, Is it just about getting a guru from the beginning so you can be guided the right way? Is it just Googling information and learning from, blogs? What's the right approach?
It's so different now because everything's at our disposal. So competing is not bodybuilding, right? So a lot of people that are bodybuilding are just doing it to do a show. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to do a show, do a show. Do a show, do whatever you got to do the show, and then take care of yourself after that. If you want to be Mr. Olympia, you already need to be a pro to even be spending energy talking about you. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, like, if you're just starting, there's so many levels. You really need to go through the levels, because now your first show could be a national qualifier. Your second show could be the national. You know what I'm saying? That's not how it goes. That's like taking a kindergartner to college. You're not ready yet. So you have to be a pro before you get the pro card. Sure. You know what I'm saying? So work on the being pro part first. The pro card, if you actually become a pro, like a professional, in other words, you treat it like a job, you do all those things, the card is already waiting on you if you do that. So I wouldn't focus on the card. I wouldn't focus on getting my name out there, because if you put the physique together and just post in the bathroom like I used to do on social media, you'll become famous. I mean, I'm saying, like my whole social media came from me posting my progress pictures in my bathroom. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't, I wasn't winning shows. I started winning shows right after that. So,
but as far as getting the advice, how do you find that advice? As far as you learning about the supplements, what to take, what not to do, what to do, what not to do, you know what I'm saying? The cautionary stories, you know what I'm saying? Would you recommend somebody getting a guru and like tracking a guru?
Of course. I mean, a guru comes in time, And there's gurus who work with amateurs who, you know, who are just starting. But I don't think you necessarily need a guru. You know, a lot of people don't know the functions of the muscles. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be funny, but
Just the basics.
it's a lot of stuff that's skipped over. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot, bro. I mean, you think about it, people work out 6 months and now they're doing diets and shit. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, if you do that, you'll continue to get a watered down product. If you really want to be special, you know what I mean? And the people that you admire, like somebody, be surprised if you reach out to them the right way, they probably can help you. And a lot of these people who are on top, they have gurus and coaches and all that too. So
that's true.
This community that we have, we have the ability to share our knowledge and information, and you can even monetize it. So I think searching the internet, but also watching how they treat their athletes, because there's a lot of people who take over your physique in your life and tell them it's your way or the highway. A lot of coaches do dangerous stuff. They experiment on people. I've been experimented on.
That's crazy. Really?
Oh, yeah.
Experimented on.
Well, I mean, you know, in other words, if you don't really know what the fuck's going to happen, sorry, excuse my French, and you have somebody else try it, you know, like remember the commercial with the Life cereal? Have Mikey try it. You try it. I ain't going to try it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of stuff, you know, that happens in this game. So people call me all the time. If you want to reach out to me, you know, I'll give you the knowledge that I have. I'm just not into telling people, you know, what to take and all that stuff anymore. It's just not my cup of tea. If you want to learn how to fix yourself after you get done retired, you know, you got kidney issues, liver issues, parasite issues, you holler at me for that, and you know, I got you.
So when they were giving you that stuff to take, it was like an experimentation. Did you at that time, were you aware of that was just trial and error type thing?
Well, not according to the words that they said to me.
You realize after
the results. So diuretics was always my issue. You know what I'm saying? Because you get in a certain level of condition, and then it's water manipulation. Well, when you start competing all the time and you get into the whole competition thing, then you do things that you do just because that's what everybody else does. You know what I'm saying? And there was times where trying to figure out the right dosage or whatever, I mean, it's an experiment. When I say I only need a third of a diazide, you should believe me. Not try to get me to do more just because you don't believe me, because I'm 6'2", 295 pounds. I mean, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by experimenting. So.
Did you ever have a health scare at the moment where you felt like something's?
I've had several health scares. Yeah, 2007. 2007. I lost 17 pounds in 9 hours. I was in shape, did not need a diuretic. I'd never taken injectable Lasix. I did injectable Lasix. I lost 17 pounds in 9 hours. If you go back and look at the video, I looked crazy, like I was barely standing. I couldn't believe how hard I trained for that show. I trained for 7 months for that show, 07. Because if you remember, I won the Ironman in the Sacramento, and I got third at the Arnold. So I started my prep right after FIBO, like in April. I mean, I looked insane. And I got down to the last few weeks, and I took some Cytodrin. I took a half a tablet of Cytodrin, and my body broke out with these black spots. And then when I took the Lasix, it was game over. So I basically, I mean, I was at the athletes meeting, sitting there at 289 pounds, just chomping at the bits on Wednesday night. Freaking Friday morning, that shit was gone.
I keep hearing how dangerous diuretics are. So many people like say the same thing. It's just they can kill you, like they can just kill you basically.
Same thing happened. I mean, I literally locked up, and luckily I was able to get to some salt. I put the salt under my tongue, and got rid of the cramps. I mean, I know how to first aid myself. I learned. 06, same thing, different type of diuretic. Man, luckily I was in such great condition. That's what I'm telling you about condition. That it didn't matter. What happened was I took the diuretic. It was too much. Woke up the next morning and I couldn't even see. I couldn't see myself in the mirror. It was crazy. I was like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And then I tried to eat and I couldn't eat. And I was like, "Man, this stuff really wiped me out." Because I only peed 4 times. I was trying to figure out what was going on, but they were really, really long, drawn out water draining. Anyway, long story short, I ended up drinking 1.5 gallons of water. I took 8 scoops of Vitargo and 2 scoops of NO Shotgun. And I literally drank, I started drinking it that morning because I couldn't eat any food. Drinking that morning, and it was like taking an IV, literally my whole body. I probably peaked that afternoon, and I held it. Oh, I won the show, straight ones. It was crazy. That's the first time I came out as the executioner. But those are what I consider health scares. Those are probably the 2 worst ones, the 2 most dramatic ones, because I didn't recover from the one in 07, and I recovered really handsomely from the one in 2006. So.
Man, wow, what a story, man. Bodybuilding is definitely
crazy, bro.
It's
crazy. I'm so happy to be, on the other side. I just got my blood work done the other day, and, everything was really good. And I was just like, man, it took a long time to get to this level of health, and I'm still got a ways to go. But, like I say, I'm just mentally sound, and I'm happy, and I'm in a giving type of attitude. Like, I've been doing just a lot of, personal development. And I learned, that old parable, seed, time, harvest, and everything that, a lot of times, especially in bodybuilding, we focusing on the harvest. In business, you're focusing on your percentage or how much you're getting paid and all of that. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying a lot of times that stuff, it's already there. Like your compensation plan your compensation is already there. So, but you have to do the work first. In other words, I can tell you're going to get 25%, but 25% of zero is zero. So you should focus on, getting it done. And then you see what I'm saying? It's just, it's all it is a mental thing. It's not an actual thing. So it's the way you look at things. And so now I have that seed, time, harvest mentality. I plant as many seeds as I can, in business and relationships and life. And then I tend to it. I engage with my customers. I engage with my people, and I build relationships now. I got some crazy, crazy, huge deals going on right now that just come to me now. And I'm not calling on the phone. I got to do 100 calls a day. I don't do that stuff no more. I actually I shift my energy. I'm vibrating a different way, and the law of receiving is real. So I tell people, in bodybuilding and trying to be an athlete is hard because you got to sacrifice and dedicate and all that type of stuff. So do that. But in your mind, try to be more loving and giving, and your intent is what's going to, that's going to determine your outcome. So.
Absolutely, man. Well, I want to wish you the best in your business. Always admired you, man, as a competitor. Always one of my favorites, man. So I really appreciate your time today, man. It was great talking to you again, and hopefully we can do more of these, man.
Hey, man, I'm here. I love doing this. So
absolutely,
hit me up anytime.